I'm on high.
Welcome to Sum It Up, your one-stop shop for all things Denver Summit FC, with plenty of side hikes into the greater NWSL landscape. Women's sports in Denver and everything you should know about the culture and community of soccer at 5280.
Sum It Up is part of the Bangarang soccer community, telling soccer stories a mile in the sky and straight on till morning. Check out our Colorado Rapids sibling show, Pidcast, our Rapids 2 show, R2P2, and our soccer conversation series, Interrobang. Most importantly, we aim to be a collaborative human soccer show for community-minded soccer humans. So do your best corner flag slide right into our DMs.
Let's kick it. I'm Hallie. With me is my co-host Matt. We've got a lot to catch up on since our last episode. Let's go peak to peak.
All right, so I'm just going to start by going full community events coordinator. Topo Chico and Tifo, this is something I've been proposing for a while. If you don't drink, just do the Topo Chico seltzers. If you do the Topo Chico hard seltzers, and then go paint Tifo with the 14ers. They are posting up at the Soccer Post this Saturday and Sunday to finish up the inaugural match Tifo. I went out there last Saturday and helped paint, and while I don't want to say I'm Michelangelo, I definitely did get my Sistine Chapel on, so I think you're going to see the parts that I did come the 28th. They will be there from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday and 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sunday. Also want to shout out Soccer Post in general. These are my friends Kevin, Bob, and Hayden. They've opened a soccer-specific sports store right by Santa Fe Yards where the eventual Summit Stadium will be. They're going to have 2 indoor soccer fields, but the shop so far is just an amazing soccer-specific store that has everything from boots to those boutique jerseys that all the kids are trying to get their drip on with. What do you think? Soccer store? You gonna go down there, help paint? You gonna get some new boots?
I don't know if my painting skills are up to snuff, but I definitely would love to check out a local soccer store.
Nice. All right. Well, moving along to more events. Summit FC has announced a veritable soccer summit next week, basically a week-long pep rally leading up to the kickoff home opener. There will be a youth clinic at Infinity Park this Sunday from 12 to 2:30, a kickoff soccer social and free community pickup soccer at Street Soccer Denver in Skyline Park on Tuesday from 6 to 9 p.m., a fan rally in Larimer Square on Thursday from 4 to 7 p.m., and then throughout the city, bartenders and baristas are doing different coffee, cocktail, and beer specials, specifically Summit themed to gear up for the event. We're especially keen for you to go see our good friends Annie and Miranda at the 99ers Sports Bar. Additionally, for those of you trying to double up your footy and your 99ers fix for a midweek soccer matchup, the Street Soccer Denver will be hosting a women's and girls community kick with a pop-up from 99ers Sports Bar while showing the match at Skyline Park Wednesday at 6 p.m. So this is Summit versus Gotham. Show up, be with the community, get your kicks in, watch some good soccer. I think that's it for the community calendar. Let's get to the meat of it. NWSL transfer deadline closed on Monday, but news continues to trickle in with deals that got stuck on someone's desk. And once again, Instagram follows continue to be the leading indicator of transfer news. Hallie, what can you tell us?
Yeah, so first up we have Yuzuki Yamamoto. I started to hear this rumor last week. Denver Summit was the only NWSL team she was following on Instagram. So some rumors started. She's a 23-year-old who came up through Japan's youth teams. She's currently with the full Japanese team who are competing in the Asia Cup. They will play Australia, I think 3 a.m. Mountain Time on Saturday for the final, if anyone finds themselves either out late or up early Saturday morning. She's listed as a forward/defender. She's been playing outside back, a bit of attacking midfield for Japan. She was league MVP in the Japanese league with 8 goals in 22 games and led Tokyo to their first professional title. She won't join until after the Asia Cup concludes, but I'm excited to see where we use her. There's a lot of versatile forward/defenders on this roster now.
That was my favorite part about this announcement, seeing it actually listed in the graphic for the announcement, forward/defender. I felt so validated as someone who tries to convince people that I do both on the field. And also for my like managerial skills playing FIFA growing up, where basically I would just find all the most athletic fullbacks and make them my entire attacking third as well. So I think this is what the Janine Sanas school of do it
I was gonna
all.
say, yeah, you and Kurt compare notes there.
Well, I will say Kurt and I both play fullback. I play on the left, he plays on the right. We've played a few games together and he's got it. So I do think we're kind of the same mind there. Denver completed the transfer of Yasmin Ryan and Delaney Sheehan, most recently of the Houston Dash, but previously of Gotham. What can we expect from those signings?
Yeah, I'd say these are two players who were significant role players in Gotham's successes a couple years back, before they built out the star-studded roster that you see today. You know, before the Lavells, the Jaden Shaws, etc. Those players moved on to Houston, presumably to get more, significant minutes, and I think to maybe try to help build a team up to more success. That hasn't really come yet for Houston. Their contracts are expiring. Houston brought in a new GM, Angela Hucles, and it just seems like maybe Houston's trying to take things in a different direction, maybe go younger, kind of start from scratch. Yasmin Ryan has earned semi-regular U.S. Women's National Team call-ups the last year or so, kind of filling in for the absences of Triple Espresso on the wing, but also has played a bit of attacking midfielder and does really well to track back in defense. I recommend you look up her highlights against Japan in the She Believes Cup last year. You'll see a lot of link-up play with Lindsay Heaps, which is hopefully a preview of something to come later this season. I'd say Sheehan is more of a box-to-box midfielder who can kind of carry and distribute the ball, but she's also been known to push further up and attack. I think she's more of an underrated workhorse, doesn't really get the spotlight, but I think, could be a real good addition to the midfield, which I think has lacked some experience. And if you're wondering why they're moving as a pair, they have been together off the field since their Gotham days and have tended to broker their transfer deals together. So we'll take that. And I'd say overall, with all three signings, I think you're getting a lot of versatility, which is a common theme in this squad. A lot of players who can play in different positions. And these are players who've had big game experience and championship success. And I think both Kurt and Nick have emphasized, the team wants to win. The team wants to win now. And you got to bring in players who've been in those locker rooms, who've done it before, to build out that culture. I personally think this roster before these moves was sitting a little bit lopsided with a few very core veteran players and then a lot of really young rookies. This adds a bit of a mix to that middle who have some experience but are still on the upward trajectory of their careers, who can I hope can balance that squad out as we kind of move through the season.
I can't remember where I saw it. Maybe this was one of the Coach Jackie videos, but I loved it. Like, how can you watch a league where the players aren't even like outwardly dating each other? Which
Boring. Can't be us.
what's that? Yeah, them coming in as a pair. I believe the numbers settled around 800,000 in allocation funds, 100,000 in expansion allocation funds, which have a longer expiration date. They don't have to be spent by the end of this year, and then another 100,000 in incentives. So $1 million package for these two, kind of a big expenditure.
Yeah, I think, if you see where the league has gone, I mean, Houston paid almost 500 for Yasmin Ryan less than 2 years ago, so I'm not surprised they wanted to get some money back on that deal. Denver and Boston both got a lot of transfer money and funds to build a roster with. Denver honestly hasn't had to spend very much of that to date. IO cost 400-500K, but they did really well to sign players in the free market without having to pay transfer fees. So I think people knew Denver probably had a little bit of money to spend, and I think it's worth spending if you can get some players who can get you there sooner. Get the squad more league ready instead of trying to build from too much youth. So I think this was money well spent. It's a little interesting with the funds. Some of the funds that we got in have to be spent by the end of the year. So you kind of have to think that there's maybe a plan from Kurt and co to spend that allocation money sometime this year. And yeah, Houston gets a little bit of a longer runway to spend some of that cash in their rebuild.
I like your shout about the link up play with Lindsay Heaps. I'm always curious about those sort of conversations when you initially sign a player or start talking about that deals. Like, what players would you like to see around you? And with an expansion side, you just have this once in a team history ability to have a relatively blank canvas. So you could bring in a Lindsay and say, like, we've got 6 more roster spots. Any tips, any friends, anyone you particularly mesh well with?
Yeah, I think, like I said, if anyone wants to go back and find those highlights from last year, Yasmin highlights, I think 2025 against Japan on YouTube. It's a lot of link up play with Lindsay kind of around the perimeter of the box, through the middle. I think Yasmin's a really flexible player. Like she might start on wide, but she can do an overlapping run. Someone in the middle goes wide, she can fill in the middle. She scored some goals that way as well. So excited to see what she can do. Like I said, I think both of them were a bit muted in Houston, but I think that's mostly because Houston wasn't necessarily doing a ton. Um, but hopefully, we see more of what we saw from them at Gotham.
I'm stoked for the forward defender icon that's going to be Yuzuki. And I think that Yasmin and Delaney really enjoy the lack of humidity here in Denver. So welcome to them. This brings us to a total of 25 players with a 26 player roster maximum. Our 26th would be Lindsay Heaps coming in the summer. Is that correct? Does this fill us up?
I think it could. There's a couple, I think, maybe short-term contracts in play. So Natasha Flint came on loan from Tampa Bay. So her contract is up with the USL season, which is around May or June. So we'll have to kind of keep an eye on whether or not that gets extended. Nothing has been announced yet. Conversely, we sent Faith Weber on loan to Tampa in the USL. So we'll see if that loan continues or if she comes back in the squad or finds minutes elsewhere. And I don't believe Meg Bodie's contract length was published, so I'm not sure. I would not be surprised if that's a short-term contract to get through the summer and reassess. So we'll keep an eye on those things and see how it shakes out, see if all the rookies work out or if any of them end up going on loan, if they need to get minutes elsewhere.
Nice. Well, I think that wraps up the peak to peak and the pregame notes. Recap a game. We have our first regular season game to talk about. This is pretty wild. This past weekend, Denver Summit FC played their first ever regular season match, recording a 2-1 defeat to Bay FC in San Jose, California, and an initial loss in the first leg of the Gen Malay Derby. Summit will seek vengeance at home in September with a -1 goal deficit to overcome on the aggregate again to win that Gen Malay Derby. We're making this a thing, y'all. It's going to happen. Let's talk about the storylines. I think the biggest is that Janine Sonis is a first merchant. The Highlands Ranch native wore the first ever captain's armband for the summit, a historic honor, and went on to tally the team's first ever assist in contributing to Melissa Kostler's first ever summit goal. She punctuated that with Denver's first ever red, and I would argue yellow as well, card. Not bad for a 27-minute shift. Just goes to show those prolific tendencies that all three of us cited in our pick of Janine Sonis as our unanimous MVP. Hallie, if we look at the first 27 minutes when the team was 11 strong, what was your read on the play? What did you see from the press box?
Yeah, I think it started a little chaotic, which I think is to be expected. These players have played together in preseason, but you have a full stadium now. There was a big investors and friends and family box right along the bench. Some away fans up in the corner, so a lot of energy. So yeah, it took a little bit of time, I think, to settle into the game. Obviously, gave up that goal in the 8th minute. Bay found some space. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I thought after that, Denver found some possession and space and a bit of momentum themselves, which led to that equalizing goal. I was still confident at that time that we would come back and hit my 3-1 score prediction. But the red card just, took the momentum out of the sails. And that's a long time to play down a player, especially with early season fitness. So, giving up that second goal so quickly just really changed things. And I think someone had to shift more into damage control and, just try and capitalize on any scoring opportunity they could get, which, spoiler alert, wasn't very many. But at the same time, they also locked things down defensively and, didn't let the floodgates open. So I do kind of commend the players for that.
I think that's an interesting point, how early the red card comes in. And what you would normally see is a lot of teams, a lot of coaches would make an immediate shift to make up for that, especially with Janine playing up on the left wing in this game where she got the card. But we didn't see subs until the second half when we saw Nick go to the bench for Liv Thomas, Una McCormick, Natalie Means, and Meg Reed. They took the places of Emma Reagan, Allie Brazier, Carson Pickett, and Devin Lynch, respectively. I personally loved seeing the team stay so offensive minded and chase the win versus bunkering down a player. What did you think?
Yeah, I think to stay on that point from the first half real quick, I think this is actually where they benefited from Janine playing left wing as opposed to right back. I think if you lose your right back that early, I don't know that someone else that was on the field could have pulled themselves back and marked Kundananji or a player like that. So I think in some ways losing a wing was maybe better than some of the other options they had. They were still really able to stay defensively solid. The midfield was able to drop and provide coverage. And I really just thought a lot of the rookies and the league debutantes remained level-headed, composed in the second half. I mean, they kept battling in some very physical matchups. I wouldn't have necessarily blamed some of them if they got a little retaliatory in some of those circumstances or picked up a card, but they didn't. And I thought they maintained the energy through those subs and, formation tweaks and trying to find anything they could from the game. They were throwing their bodies on the line, like literally. I think Carson and Tosh both had head injury checks. Fortunately, they seem to be okay. But yeah, just immense work rate, I think, from everyone throwing themselves on the line. I think Bay's defense and goalkeeper got a little bit complacent, trying to waste time and pass the ball around. I maybe wish that Liv could have sniped something from that with some extra pressure, but obviously chasing an extra player is no easy feat, and I'm sure that already required a lot of energy, so I'll forgive her this time on that one. But yeah, we spoke to Nick and Kaylee and Abby Smith post game, and I think overall the vibe was just disappointment because so much was taken out of their control so early that I just think they weren't really able to execute the game plan and the prep that they wanted to. But I think they were all very proud of the likes of Io and Ava, who kept pace with a player like Kundananji, who can beat a lot of defenders in this league. So I think there's positives to take in the individual performances, but there's some big tests coming up, and we're going to have to find more offensively, and we're going to have to do it without Janine for at least the next game.
All right, let's break down those goals specifically and the goalkeeping that came with them. Abby Smith got the inaugural start apropos of her number one jersey. The 8th-minute goal for Bay FC comes via Alex Pfeiffer. I'm hard pressed to put that one on Abby. My broadcast vantage showed Carson do well to hold off Pfeiffer. Alex was getting in behind and from the wing. And I think that actually covered up Kaylee Kurtz's view of Pfeiffer cutting in and trying to put the ball on her left foot. And Kaylee, in turn, covered up Abby's view. So we almost got this kind of stack of
Shield.
defenders. What's
Yeah.
that?
A shield of
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, usually I've been in and around those situations where you just hear a goalkeeper screaming like, "I can't see. Get the F out of my way. I can't see." But this did allow Alex Pfeiffer to sneak an in-swinging curler low and into the far post. Abby stretched out, but without the vision to see the ball in the shot before it curled around Kaylee. I don't think there was much she could be doing there. Do you think this shows a little bit of the kind of communication and defensive positioning yet to be ironed out for such a new team in the first game of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think I got some flack last week for not predicting a clean sheet, but I kind of expected something messy like this. Just first game jitters, players getting used to each other. For me, that's kind of what this was. And Nick's alluded to it. He wants attacking minded fullbacks. And when you do that, you do kind of create some space and exposure that can be beat if you're not able to maintain possession. And I think that's what's happened here. I think they'll learn from it. Hopefully not a theme we see. But yeah, to me it felt fluky, and I thought we could still, take the game by the horns and go for it still.
I do think both of these goals at BFC felt fluky, but let's move on to the second goal of the game, which didn't feel fluky at all. This was the 20th minute when Denver leveled the score. This one was just straight up outplaying BFC, like no tactical complexity. Carson simply sends a beautiful ball up the left sideline. Janine beats Sydney Collins in a foot race and crosses it to Melissa, who just out positioned Joel Anderson, taps it in with the left foot. Again, the Bay FC keeper, nothing to be done there. I I just think this was a real showcase of the talent that this team has. Uh, and Bay had all four defenders back. They were channeled well in good positions to mark, and those three players just kind of raised the level of play and put this one in the back of the net.
Yeah, I think Carson starts with this ball pretty deep in her own half, just completely skips the midfield, our midfield, skips their back line. Janine runs onto it. I think her and Kostler both had, good physicality there to, I think that comes from experience and at very elite national team levels, they were able to hold off their defenders and finish that off. I think we saw this tactic building in preseason, and Nick had said in the NWSL things get really clogged in the middle, and sometimes you just need to use those wide channels and bypass it. And I think especially with the midfield, we have still young and getting used to each other. Sometimes you just got to go direct. 3 passes, 2 passes, you're in, and I think that's exactly what this was. I did have to sit through a lengthy VAR check in the stadium with no replays, so I was nervous it wasn't going to stand, and some angry Bay fans calling for offside. But no, it's a pretty nice goal to have as the team's historic first. A goal that'll be replayed for years and hopefully decades to come, and maybe eventually be a bar trivia question on who scored or assisted the first Summit goal.
Ooh, done. And you did. I like that point that you just made. Like Nick talked a lot in the preseason, and especially after those Coachella performances about switching the point of attack. But this was definitely just route one football. Like kudos to Carson for just taking taking the shot, putting it upfield, and the conversion from Janine and Melissa. That's
Use the
yeah,
strengths
that's
you
history.
have, right? So play to your strengths. I think that's what they did here.
All right, let's talk about the last goal of the game, which came early, 31st minute, and it went to Bay FC. This one was pretty frustrating to me because while Bay played out a dangerous free kick just on top of the box with some cleverness, they passed it wide to Alex Pfeiffer as opposed to shooting or trying to curl it in for a header in the mixer. But when Pfeiffer gets the ball, she dribbles in, and three different Summit players had a chance to stop her on the dribble. It's looked a little bit kind of like stabbing, not great defensive positioning or patience. And then she just lays it off to Joel Anderson, who is unmarked at the top of the box. And this is, I think, every center back's dream to get the ball like a sitter right in front of you. And she just puts it through the forest of players. I don't know who would actually deflect it off, but it took a Bay FC deflection and went out of reach of Abby Smith, who kind of just looked on helplessly once the ball got redirected. I would like to see more urgency here from the back line on this one. I think with the first goal, we can say that was a fluke because they kind of just covered themselves up. Like, but this one, I felt like they could have really stood their ground a little bit better as opposed to just getting caught off guard with this wide pass to Pfeiffer.
Yeah, I think this was within 5 minutes of the red card. There hadn't really been any tactical adjustments yet. And it's not really the goal you want to give up when you're down a player. But yeah, I think they just get caught kind of flat, marking space, chasing, no real control. And I think the deflection's really unfortunate, and it makes Abby's day even harder. She was pretty bummed about that one post game, although I think she had some great saves after that to keep the deficit to 1. But yeah, I think the red card followed by this in 5 minutes. It was just a deflating to the momentum and the excitement around starting this season. I was like, maybe actually having an NWSL team and a personal vested interest is too hard for me. I'm not built for this.
I will say I don't have the save stats pulled up, but the eye test, Abby Smith had a day and really kept them in that game.
Yeah, I think they had 20 shots, maybe 6 or so on goal. She had that kick save pretty late. So yeah, I think they knew they probably weren't going to pull out the win or maybe even get the draw, but there was still a lot of care taken to not concede further in that game, which I respect.
Well, Any final thoughts on that one before we dust it off and put it in the history books?
No, I mean, it would've been nice to have some points on the board. That was Bay's, I think, first win in 16 games, so I wish that had not come against us, and I wish our schedule, in the near term was a little bit lighter. I think it's a good test. You got a lot of games here coming up, so you can kind of forget about that one and put it in the rearview.
Now, before we move on to Orlando, you were at Bay covering the game. Big shout out to Shelby Cravens with Summit and then Emil with Bay FC for facilitating all of that. What was the experience like?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think really good vibes. Forget the exact attendance, but I think Bay had 13 or 14,000. Pretty nice, warm, sunny day, akin to our current Denver March weather. Some sunscreen and a midday kickoff. Like I said, a lot of Summit owners and fans had made the trip, so you saw a lot of that presence around the stadium. Jordan Angeli has ties, having gone to school in the Bay. Saw her on the concourse, reuniting with, Brandy Chastain, Leslie Osborne, some of the Bay FC owners and all legends in their own selves. So I think there was a lot of excitement from both sides going into the game. And yeah, just a really exciting, I was going back trying to find my original emails from Jordan Angeli in like the May, June 2023 time frame of when this all began almost 3 years ago. So it was a long road and at the same time, came up really quick. So I think overall still really celebratory around kind of hitting this milestone. And I think the fact that everybody was disappointed, goes to show the standard of this team. They want to be winning out of the gate. They're not really looking for excuses and slow starts. So I look for everybody to respond to that over these next few games.
Yeah, I got to talk to Jordan Angeli ahead of the game, and she said she wasn't particularly noticed. She was honored actually at the girls' athletic leadership school, the middle school here in Denver. Her parents were there. Her dad gave a really nice introductory speech ahead of Jordan. But then to have that moment, and I think I saw it was Lisa Carlin posted something on Instagram. It's like when you get to interview your friend on the sidelines because she brought a team to Denver. I thought that was just such a really cool community and personal endeavor aspect of that. And then I definitely want to shout out Denver Seven's coverage of the Means family who were tailgating outside of the stadium. My favorite part was they had a jug of green liquid. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just Ecto Cooler High C, but it said Summit Emergency Juice, and I think they all took a shot of emergency juice before going in. But they showed up loud and proud, and I thought that was a really cool piece that Seven put out, and makes me really want to look for the Means family on the 28th in the parking lot outside of Empower Field.
Yeah, I hope they make it here. She got a very loud welcome to the field when she came on, so I looked up where she was from, and she's from the Bay Area. So hopefully we will see them travel out this way. But it was a nice little energy boost where, the game wasn't quite going that way, and you still see these players making their debuts and their friends and family really excited. So I think it puts it all in perspective, and we're just at the start of where this all could go.
Yeah, I think we were looking at pre-show. What was it, 4 NWSL debuts and 5 professional overall debuts? I think we had.
Vice, yeah, the vice versa. So yeah, I think
Nice.
4 professional debuts and 5 NWSL debuts of players who've played in other leagues. Yeah, 9 players out of a total of, I don't remember how many subs we had, but yeah, 16 or so. Definitely a good showing with that.
Well, now that they've gotten that first one out of the gate, let's talk about the second game that they're going to get to play. All right, the team travels to Orlando this week, where they'll face the former home of Allie Brazier and Carson Pickett. What do you think we'll see? And can we make this an Allie and Carson derby, an AC derby? What are we?
Let's do it.
ACDC? We can figure this out.
Yeah, I think Orlando's been a force in this league the last couple of years. Barbara Banda is healthy, and a healthy Barbara Banda is difficult, I think, for any defender to contain. And you add a supporting cast of IA and some Brazilians, and Orlando will keep you on your toes. Their season didn't get off to the start that they wanted to. They were home, but they were missing Marta and a few others. And they had a 2-hour storm delay, I think, at halftime. So it's hard to take too much from that game, but Seattle did defeat them. 2-1. So I think we'll see a hungry Orlando looking for some vengeance, and they'll be home again as well. Hopefully, we can do without the storm delay. I think Seattle got stuck there for 3 days after the game as well.
Man.
Um, yeah. But yeah, Orlando, I think they're anchored by a solid back line. They've got Brazilian Rafaele back healthy, partner next to her fiance, Hallie Mace, who made the move from Kansas City. And then, of course, you've got, Avaye, Banda, maybe Marta back this weekend. And they'll just be looking to exploit spaces that Bay found, even more. So I'll be looking to see if the midfield can kind of keep up with that speed of play, cut off those deliveries, and hopefully catch some counterattacks on Orlando. And then I'll be watching to see if Io and Ava can keep up with what they did last week and make Barbara Banda's day as difficult as they did for Kundananji.
That would be something. I do feel like Barbara Banda just has this inevitability about her. Like if she's in the game, she's getting at least one. I didn't get to watch this match, but I'm looking through the game stats. It really looked like Orlando lost this game versus Seattle Reign winning it. They had the momentum for the majority of the game. They underperformed their XG, scoring one goal on 1.67 XG, 22 shots and five big chances. This really seems like maybe we shouldn't be comfortable seeing that Orlando is coming into this game with a loss.
But yeah, no, I think they'll be fired up. 2 years ago they ran away with the league. Last year they made a deep playoff run. I think they have high standards and they'll be looking to prove, get things back on the right course. So but yeah, hopefully the defense can rise to the challenge and hopefully we can get forward a little bit more in a way that we, couldn't see last week.
All right, so let's go into prediction mode a little bit. First and foremost, how do you think we'll line up in the absence of Janine Sanas?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I'll be curious to see if Yasmin Ryan and Delaney Sheehan are in with the squad this weekend. Yamamoto won't be in yet, but I will be curious to see who starts at the wing. We haven't seen Lourdes Bosch in the first game. And I don't think we saw her in the second game at Coachella either, but I thought she did really well against Utah. She was very good at drawing fouls, getting, free kicks, and just being kind of a menace on the wing. So I wouldn't mind seeing her start in Sonas's absence. And I'm hoping she's only got a 1-match ban. I haven't seen any updates from the disciplinary committee to up that. So hopefully we've got her back against Gotham. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I will be thrilled if we can hold on for a draw against Orlando. I mean, if we can get a win, great, but I just think you got to get some points on the board and prove something against a team that's been pretty good the last couple seasons.
You made exactly the shout that I was hoping you would, and feel the same way. I think you slot Lourdes Bosch in at left wing and pretty much run back the team that you had against Bay FC. We're big fans of Lourdes, and I would love to see that happen. Let's get to score predictions. I think we're going to be on the same wavelength on this one as well, given what you just said. What have you got?
I'm gonna go 1-1. Hopefully we score, but yeah, I think Barbara Banda will probably do the inevitable.
And who's going to be inevitable on our side?
Uh, I'm gonna go Brazier against her old team. Let's do it.
I am in the same boat as you, but I think we're going to get double the goals. I think a 2-2 draw. I think we get a Barbara Banda brace. And I think that we are going to get a Carson Pickett and Lourdes Bosch goal.
Nice. Left side dominance.
Yeah. I mean, come on. It's the best side of the field.
I mean, Carson's
Uh,
going to be taking all those free kicks and corners probably in
yeah.
Janine's absence. So whip them on in.
Well, let's preview one more game. Not till Wednesday, but I think we can speak on a little bit.
Yeah, the team will stay in Orlando for a couple days. Hopefully avoid storm delayed travel and make the way up the coast to New Jersey and face Gotham on Wednesday. Gotham will be coming off, I think, a home game against North Carolina this weekend. Obviously, Gotham are the reigning champions. They're a team that continues to add to their already stacked roster. I genuinely don't know how they do it with the alleged league salary cap, but they've added Norwegian Guro Reiten from Chelsea as a creative attacking player. So we'll see if she is in the squad by Wednesday. They didn't dominate Boston as much as I honestly expected them to. They kind of eked out a 1-0 win, but if things start clicking, you got Rose Lavelle, Jaden Shaw, Esther, and others that can really hit you from all angles. And I think we'll need to see the defending around the box a little bit better than we did this weekend to contain them. But it's still early in the season. Gotham hasn't looked like they've hit their peak yet. They're a team that sometimes tends to kind of wait and hit form later in the season. So let's see what we can do.
Nice. Yeah, I was also looking at that matchup against Boston as a bit of a litmus test, and I really thought Gotham was going to dominate that more than they did. But again, like I said with the Orlando match, I am definitely not going to come into that match comfortable based on that result. We did see in that matchup that Boston got the other expansion tax red card.
Both
Also,
Canadians, so
yeah,
I don't know
Bianca
what those
Rose St.
Canadians are
George.
doing.
Yeah, there's something's going on here. And then I will just point out that I was dumb and I pulled Esther from my starting lineup in fantasy to put in Sophia Wilson. And then when I was painting Tifo, I heard that goal come across. So that was a little disappointing for me.
It was obvious that Esther was she's had an absence. Her partner had a baby recently, so I don't know that everybody knew exactly what her return to play timeline and minute situation would be, but yeah, she's coming out of the gates hot, trying to get that golden boot.
Well, shall we go predictions?
Oof. Okay. Um, I'll go 2-1 win in that one.
Do you think we beat
Uh,
Gotham?
yeah, let's try and catch them early. Maybe they'll have some players with some niggles, tired from multi-match week. Gotham's my
Who are
old
the goal scorers
stomping
there?
grounds, so gotta do something. Um, I'm gonna put Liv Thomas on the board, get her first goal of the season. Maybe a nice little counterattack. I think the Gotham back line is not always the speediest, so if we can capitalize on that, and then hopefully Janine is back, and maybe Janine gets a nice little revenge goal.
You gonna make a prediction for the other side?
I'll just give it to Astaire, probably. But, could be Shaw or Lavelle on any given day.
All right. I am going to this is rare where I'm the bearer of bad news. I I think this is a loss. I think 3-1. I think this is going to be our third road game in a row, and it's going to show. I don't know if the reinforcements like Yasmin and such will have integrated yet. I think the goal scorer for us, I really like that Liv Thomas shout. I'm going to stay with a forward. I'm going to go Melissa Kostler gets that one. I think the three goals are going to be Jaden, Lavelle, and Hal on the Gotham side. But I think it's all going to
Colorado
set up.
on Colorado crimes.
I know, I know.
I'm
I think I think it's going to
hoping
set up
maybe
for.
like Yasmin and Delaney get in and we get some revenge goals from the former Gotham pair, but we'll
Ooh,
see.
that could be a fun storyline.
Yeah.
I do think this loss sets us up for the epic storyline of getting the first ever Summit win at home on March 28th in front of we've got to be probably like 55,000 people now. I don't know if we're up to 60, but I just can't imagine like the stadium's going to run riot, especially if it's the first win ever. It's going to be amazing. I don't want them to take the L, but I do like storylines.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be worth it maybe to build up to that moment. I don't believe home teams in record games have a very good uh, winning record, so hopefully we can break that. I do think Spirit are adjusting to a lot of off-season moves, and it's not necessarily a bad time to play them.
I have to wonder like coming into these record games, just like especially for the away side, what it's like to face that amount of fanfare for the team you're playing. 'Cause this is
Yeah,
going to
unfortunately,
blow.
the Trinity Rodmans of the world are quite accustomed to, full stadiums, and, she might be one of those players who kind of feeds off the energy, which has been great from, like, a US women's national team perspective and taking the reins in games and away in hostile environments, but, yeah, hope we can contain it for that day only.
All right. Well, I see your points and they are valid. I am not going to acknowledge them. I still say that we blow them away in that one, but we'll get to that on the next episode of Sum It Up. I think that that brings us to the end. Be sure to check us out on socials at Sum It Up Show on Instagram, Sum It Up on Blue Sky. We did just launch hashtag Evergreen Sky on Blue Sky with our friends over at Gray's Social. This is a feed aggregator that allows us to aggregate all of the mentions for any Summit player, coach, certain phrases, keywords, and then we put match tags in each week. So, like last week was hashtag Bay versus DEN, and it allows the fan bases to kind of congregate in conversation over those games and get the banter going. What about you? You're on Blue Sky. How do they find you?
House517 on Blue Sky, H Guardo on Instagram. I will not be traveling to these 2 games, so I will be hitting the local bar scene and watching from my couch for these games. So hopefully I'll be able to post more during the matches.
All right. Well, as always, intro and outro music is Climb On Late Night Radio Remix by Denver's own Maddie O'Neill featuring Briscoe Jones. Let's end it with Sum It Up.
Sum it up.
Sum It Up.